Hey guys, so today we are going to be working on sheet mulching the new garden entryway and getting this arbor up on some pavers. So I've already went ahead and weeded one side of the flower bed. I'm going to go ahead and sheet mulch this one first, and then we are going to tackle this little area over here. I'm going to start with a little bit of wet cardboard, and I'm just going to place it around my plants. And I ripped it up in smaller pieces so I can just place it up through the plants. Easier to get around the plants when it's wet and in smaller pieces. I usually use larger pieces for pathways. So I'm going to try to do a pretty thick layer so I won't have to worry about weeds in this area for some time. And it's biodegradable, it will break down and feed the soil. And the only weed suppressant that I actually use in the garden. I'm ripping up the cardboard into smaller pieces so I won't have an issue with the cardboard fitting around the perennials. But when I typically do the pathways, the larger pieces of cardboard, the better. There's a lot of deer running in the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There was a large group earlier that ran through. Wish I would have got it on camera, but I opened the back door before I looked out the window where I would have had them on camera, but hopefully I can get my hands on some deer spray before they try to venture further into the garden and eat my hostas and things like that. So I just want to make sure this is nice and soaked. Easier to adhere to the ground and around the perennials. Hey guys, so it is actually a new day. I'm trying to see if I can film a little bit of content after work. I started this project rather late in the evening, so I was not able to finish, but we did get one side of the bed complete with mulching. The daffodils have started to bloom and they look gorgeous. These came out of a pink mix. I do know that this daffodil right here is pink charm. I also have a bit of, I believe, replete daffodils. Some of them are bright yellow, and some of them have a bright orange cup, but they are gorgeous. We also got a freeze last night, frost. So the butterfly bushes in this area do not look the best. They were better before the frost, but they should bounce back just fine. Everything's starting to leaf out. The hydrangeas in this bed, which I did not trim, I might trim them back a bit. Not exactly sure, but they are starting to leaf out a bit. So today we are going to complete this side of the entryway garden. We're going to go ahead and pathway mulch that leads up to the bench. I'm just going to rake that back into the pathway. I have some weeding to do. The woodullas in this area, seems like the top half of the plant died, so I have to trim this up a bit, get rid of the dead branches. This one looks like the same has happened, so we're going to trim those up. We are going to do quite a bit of weeding. I do have some, I think this is wild columbine. This is all over the property. It's gorgeous. I'm going to leave that there. I have a peony coming up, daffodils, lilies, and I do have a bleeding heart in this bed as well. So I'm just going to do some weeding, remove this mulch and cardboard, trim back the woodullas, and then we are going to mulch this whole bed. Daylilies as well, hibiscus that has not started to show, and the lilac has started to open a bit more, and they smell amazing. Redbud tree in the back looks gorgeous as well. So let's go ahead and continue with weeding and mulching this side of the entryway garden. I'm going to start by just raking this back into the pathway. I do have a bit of low spots, so just going to fill in with all of this mulch right here. I guess I'll just leave the cardboard where it's at. Well, I do have a lily that came up over here, so there might be plants under here. I am not exactly sure, so maybe I should just glance under the cardboard to see what I actually have going on under there before I sheet mulch this whole entire area. Now I'm going to check out and see, make sure there's no plants under this cardboard. This can honestly stay here. Yeah, I do have lilies over here that are actually trying to come up. So, I'm going to get rid of some of this. I can only see one lily. There's a smaller one here that kind of wasn't really in the ground. I don't really think there's much more under this cardboard, so I'm going to start to weed this area a bit. I have to replant that. This side of the entryway garden has been weeded. It looks pretty good. I do have a bit of wild violets that popped up over in this area. I'm probably just going to go ahead and sheet mulch over top of those. I do have those all over the property. I do have a really gorgeous patch up front of really dark purple wild violets. Not sure which ones these are, but they're just scattered about. They're not like in a patch. So I'm just going to sheet mulch over them. So now we are going to trim back the Magical Fantasy Weigela. I did get these on clearance last year. They do have quite a bit of new growth, but it looks like the top half of the shrub has died. So let's go ahead and trim these up. So I am scratching some of these branches with the pruners just as a double check to make sure that the whole branch is actually dead, because some of them, some of the same branch has growth on it and some of it doesn't. So I just scratch a bit with the edge of the pruners. And I probably won't get any blooms off of this year. Not exactly sure because I do have a lot of dieback. But I did get this for the variegated leaves that it has. So I'm fine with it not blooming. The leaves do add quite a bit of interest to the plant in this area of the garden, so I'm fine even if I don't get any blooms. And this is probably going to look a bit awkward because I do have this really tall branch that did not die back, and then the rest of this I cut way back, but I'm just going to go ahead and leave this branch. Make sure this one, okay, that one's dead. I'm going to go ahead and clip that, and looks pretty good. So I'm happy with that cut back. Hopefully these bounce back and maybe next year I'll get some blooms. I did get a little bit of blooms in the fall time with this plant, so maybe that is still possible. But for now, it'll have to do. Everything has been weeded. Weigelas have been trimmed back. So now I'm going to go ahead and sheet mulch this area. Today I'm going to use a different method than I used last time because I have fewer plants in this area to sheet mulch around, so I'm going to be using larger pieces of cardboard. I have them in this pan. They are soaking in water. Before, when I did this side, I had to rip up the pieces a bit smaller just to sheet mulch around the daffodils, so I don't have to worry about that. We're going to go ahead and use these really large pieces of cardboard. So I love to use the sheet mulching method. I've been doing this method for quite some time, even before I knew it was a thing. And no garden space in this garden doesn't have cardboard under it. That is how I tame the woods and this space into a garden. It all starts with a really thick layer of cardboard, which breaks down, and it is biodegradable, so it feeds the soil. It is a really great material to use in the garden, and this is the only weed suppressant that I use. So I'm just going to make sure I get these nice and wet. And I don't always wet the cardboard when I use it. Sometimes I do. It depends on how I'm feeling. The cardboard is down. I did go ahead and move one of the lilies out of this area because it was just one, so kind of pointless, and the bench has to set in this space. So I did go ahead and remove that. I probably will plant it elsewhere in the garden, But now it is time to go ahead and get our mulch down. And I'm not going to mulch up close to the house. I'm going to leave maybe about a foot. And I think I might get some rocks replaced in that area. Sheet mulching is done for the most part. I did change my mind and go all the way up towards the house. I was trying to leave like a foot of mulch away from the house because I was thinking of getting some large pebbles to place along the edge of the house, and those same pebbles I was going to place along the edge of the pathway. I still may do that. I just have to pull the mulch back away from the house. And I did not mulch under the lilac tree because I do have a large patch of dwarf mondo grass in this area. The bench used to set where the lilac tree is, and I had a paver stepping stone at the curve of the mondo grass to lead you to the bench. Since the bench will be setting elsewhere, I need to relocate the dwarf mondo grass. And since the garden is on a hill, when we have a heavy rain, I do lose a bit of mulch down the hill. So I'm thinking of planting the dwarf mondo grass in a way that it prevents the mulch from going down the hill. So once I relocate the dwarf mondo grass, I'm going to go ahead and sheet mulch under the lilac. And the arbor will eventually be setting on pavers. I just haven't done that yet. We are also going to be installing some cedar fence panels. I have the fence panels, I just don't have the posts to install them just yet. But once I get the posts, we are going to install the fence. I am also hoping to get a cedar arbor for this space as well. And I have a large patch of iris in this flower bed as well. I'm thinking that it will look nice if I just dot a bunch of large patches of irises throughout this garden space. I am working on collecting quite a bit of different irises for this area. I think that will look nice. But that is going to be it for today's project. I thank you guys for joining me, and I hope again to see you on the next one. Thanks. Bye.